When I finally opened my eyes after 3 months in a hospital bed, I thought I was dreaming. The first thing I noticed was the light, that sharp summer glow streaming through my bedroom window. I remembered the last time I saw it, back in spring, before my world went dark in a sudden blur of dizziness, pain, and sirens. The doctors called it a miracle that I'd survived it all. All I wanted was to step outside, take a deep breath of that crisp lake air, and feel like I was home again. But the second I stepped onto my porch, barefoot, still in the sweatpants the hospital had sent me home in, I froze. My peaceful, secluded lakefront property, the one I had worked my whole life to buy and maintain, was gone. In its place was chaos. Music blasted so loud the wooden panels under my feet seemed to vibrate. Teenagers shrieked with laughter as they hurled themselves off my dock into the clear blue water. Colorful beach umbrellas lined the shore, their poles jammed deep into the sand, on my private beach. A brand new gazebo sat near the shoreline, decked out with string lights and a cooler full of drinks. And then there was the banner. A massive, tacky banner stretched across 2 wooden posts. Private HOA beach party, residents only. At first, I honestly thought I'd stepped into some parallel universe. I stumbled forward, blinking against the sunlight, trying to make sense of it. I'd lived on this land for over 20 years. I'd bought the entire lakefront outright, along with several acres of surrounding woods. It had always been my sanctuary, quiet mornings with coffee on the dock, lazy afternoons fishing, and evenings where the only sound was the hum of crickets. Now, it looked like some cheap tourist resort had exploded on my property. A group of kids, maybe 12 or 13 years old, dashed across my lawn, dripping wet from the lake, leaving muddy footprints all over the grass I'd painstakingly maintained for decades. My heart sank when I spotted deep tire ruts in the dirt driveway, where someone had apparently been parking trucks or trailers. I was still frozen there, trying to wrap my head around it, when I heard a sharp, commanding voice. "You there, excuse me, this area is for HOA residents only. No outsiders allowed." I turned, and there she was, the stereotype in human form. Blonde bob, oversized sunglasses, a neon pink visor perched on her head, and a clipboard in hand like some kind of suburban general. I didn't have to ask her name. I already knew. Karen. Every small town has one. And ours had her. She stormed up the hill toward me like she owned the place, her expensive sandals kicking up gravel. "Didn't you see the signs?" she snapped, jabbing a manicured finger toward a brand new wooden post with a laminated sign that read, "Private HOA property. Trespassers will be reported." I stared at her for a long moment, my exhaustion sharpening into disbelief. "Ma'am," I said slowly, "this is my house. This is my lake. And you're on my land." She laughed. Actually laughed, like I'd just told her I was the King of England. "Not anymore," she said with a smug smile. "This lake is now a community amenity. You would know that if you'd been present for the vote. But since you've clearly been away, we went ahead and developed it. For everyone's enjoyment." My jaw clenched. "You developed it?" "Yes," she said, waving her clipboard like it was some royal decree. "The gazebo, the beach chairs, the docks, all of it was approved by the board. We even host events now. You should feel honored that your property is being put to good use instead of just sitting here unused." I blinked at her, stunned into silence for a moment. Unused, while I'd been lying unconscious in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines, fighting to breathe. Before I could even find the words, a man in a tank top zoomed up on a jet ski, cutting a loud arc across the lake before parking it right where my old fishing boat used to rest. 2 college kids dragged a cooler past me, laughing like they'd been here every weekend of their lives. That was when the anger really started to boil. "Listen carefully," I said, my voice steady but sharp. "This land is deeded to me. The lake, the shoreline, the docks, all of it. You and your little HOA have zero right to be here. Pack up your things, and leave. Now." Karen tilted her sunglasses down her nose, giving me a condescending look that made my blood run cold. "Sir," she said, each word dripping with fake sweetness, "we are not going anywhere. This is our lake now. And if you don't leave, I'll have no choice but to call the police and report you for trespassing." For a second, I almost laughed. Call the cops. On me. For standing on my own porch. I didn't say another word. I just turned, walked back inside, and closed the door behind me, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. Inside, the house felt smaller, darker, suffocating. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the wall, listening to the distant sound of music and laughter from people partying on my property like they owned it. That's when I knew. This wasn't going to be a conversation. This was going to be a war. And the HOA had no idea who they were messing with. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. The lake was quiet again, bathed in that soft, misty blue light I'd always loved. It should have been peaceful. But all I could see were the trash bags scattered on the shoreline, beer cans floating near my dock, and tire tracks carved deep into the grass from the party the night before. I made coffee, black and strong, and sat down at my old oak desk. Years of property records, legal documents, and deed maps were stored in neat binders on the bookshelf, the kind of meticulous filing my late father had taught me to keep. Karen thought she owned my lake now. She thought the HOA had claimed it. I smiled to myself as I flipped open the original deed to my land. Clear as day, in bold print. Greater than Lot 13, including entirety of lake and surrounding shoreline, private property. Not shared, not community land, mine. And as a lawyer who'd retired early but still kept my license active, I knew exactly what that meant. By the time the sun had fully risen, I had a plan. By noon, the music was blasting again. Karen and her army of self-entitled minions were setting up folding tables and lounge chairs as if they were preparing for another wild weekend. I stepped outside, this time not in hospital sweats but in my cleanest button-down and jeans. My old pickup rumbled down the gravel drive, loaded with fresh, no trespassing, private property, signs and a heavy-duty chain. As I approached the gate at the entrance of my land, I noticed a group of teenagers laughing as they dragged a paddleboard toward the lake. One of them waved lazily in my direction, as if I were just some groundskeeper. I didn't wave back. Instead, I got to work. The sound of metal clinking against metal echoed as I looped the thick chain around the gateposts and snapped a massive industrial lock into place. Then I hammered up 3 signs on the fence. Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Authorized access only. It took less than 10 minutes for Karen to appear, storming down the gravel road like a woman possessed. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she barked, her voice sharp enough to make a crow fly from a nearby tree. I leaned against the gate, calm as a still lake. "Enforcing the law," I said flatly. "This land is mine. This lake is mine. You and your HOA have been trespassing for months." Karen's face turned a shade of red I'd only seen in cartoons. "You can't do this. We voted on this. The board decided." "The board doesn't own a square inch of this land," I interrupted, holding up the deed like a badge. "I do. And as of this moment, your little beach resort is officially closed." "You're bluffing," she snapped, but I could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes. "No," I said. "I'm a licensed attorney, and I've already contacted the sheriff's office. Every single person who steps foot past this gate without permission is trespassing. And I will press charges." For a moment, the only sound was the lake water lapping gently against the dock. Then, true to form, Karen pulled out her phone and started dialing. "Fine," she said smugly. "If you want to play that game, I'll just call the cops. We'll see what they have to say when they get here." She thought she'd won. 15 minutes later, 2 sheriff's cruisers pulled up to the edge of my driveway. Karen strutted forward, pointing dramatically at me like she was presenting evidence in court. "That's him," she barked. "That man is blocking access to our lake. He's threatening our community. Arrest him." I didn't move, didn't even flinch. The officers stepped out of their cars, one of them flipping through his notepad. But then the older deputy, a broad-shouldered man with a neatly trimmed grey beard, looked up and froze. "Mr. Callahan," he said, his brows knitting together. I nodded. "Afternoon, Sheriff." The recognition was instant. Sheriff Daniels had known me for over a decade. I'd helped his son get a scholarship after a messy accident lawsuit years ago. We weren't exactly friends, but we had mutual respect, and more importantly, he knew the law as well as I did. Karen, oblivious, kept ranting. "Sheriff, this man is a menace. He's illegally locking public access to the lake. You need to." "Karen," Daniels said sharply, cutting her off. "This isn't your lake." Her mouth dropped open. "Excuse me, this property," Daniels continued, motioning toward the land and water beyond the gate, "belongs entirely to Mr. Callahan. Always has. The HOA has no claim here. No easement, no right-of-way, nothing." Karen sputtered, her confidence cracking. But the vote. "We all agreed. You can vote on whatever you want," Daniels said, his voice like gravel, "but you can't vote away someone's deeded property rights." He turned to me and tipped his hat slightly. "Mr. Callahan, we'll make sure no one else trespasses. You want us to start issuing citations?" I shook my head. "Not yet. I'll handle it civilly, for now. But if they step foot past this gate again, it's criminal trespassing, and I'll want it on record." Karen's face turned a dangerous shade of purple. "This isn't over," she hissed, clutching her clipboard like a lifeline. "Oh, it's over," I said quietly, stepping closer until we were only a few feet apart. "Your little beach, your parties, your gazebo, gone. By tomorrow, I expect every single chair, jet ski, and tiki torch off my property. Or I'll have it all hauled away at your expense." The sheriff didn't say a word, but the faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth told me everything I needed to know. By that evening, the lake was quiet again. One by one, HOA members came to collect their things, shooting me dirty looks as they loaded their boats and coolers into their trucks. The gazebo came down in a heap of splintered wood. The beach chairs vanished. The string lights came down, leaving only the gentle glow of the setting sun over the water. And me. I sat on my dock with a cold beer, watching the reflection of the trees ripple across the surface of my lake, peaceful for the first time in months. Karen could plot and scheme all she wanted, but it didn't matter. Because at the end of the day, the lake was mine. And no horror on earth was going to change that.